right, we have 5:30. We'll call the meeting to order. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make
I'll
that
ma-
motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Sorry, public comment shouldn't be in there.
Motion carries 4-0. Public comments is on the agenda. We approve the agenda as is, so we'll open up for public comments, but no one is here, so we'll close public comments. And just for the record, as a note, we do have the city attorney, Tim Sullivan, is on Zoom attending the meeting virtually. That'll take us
Hello,
to.
everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you hear us okay?
I see all of you.
Perfect. And you can hear us okay, Tim?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, 5A proclamation, Maggie.
Okay, I will start this topic. So at the previous meeting on May 11th, the council expressed concern regarding the economic and social impacts related to the stay-at-home order that was issued by the governor of Minnesota. There was a discussion at that meeting as to how the city council could express support for reopening business and places of worship. So as you know, the Mayor community is made up of many small businesses and faith communities, and the inability of these organizations to serve residents during the pandemic has caused hardship. So there was originally a discussion as to making a resolution that would simply order us as a local entity to open up or support opening up businesses. But after much discussion, I believe the direction was to do more of a proclamation route where we would draft a proclamation to be shared then with the governor of Minnesota and elected state leaders that would urge the stay-at-home order to be eased in the near future related to businesses and places of worship. But with that, even if orders were relaxed, the city council would still encourage residents and organizations to operate while adhering to public health guidance on social distancing and mitigation strategies to prevent the spread of the virus. So with that, in front of you today is proclamation number 2020-1, which is the declaration of the city council in support of local business, economic activity, and emergence from stay-at-home order during the COVID pandemic. And it outlines the timeline of orders that have been issued by this Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, and then it kind of highlights that the stay-at-home order is done today, and then that we are in support of eliminating or easing up restrictions on businesses and religious entities, but that we also support that and encourage residents to still follow CDC recommendations related to social distancing and mitigation strategies. With that, I hope you had a chance to review it. We won't go into every detail of that proclamation, but I'm here to answer any questions, and then Tim Sullivan is here as well.
Perfect, thank you. Tim, do you have anything you need to add right now?
Well, I mean, I think we covered it the last meeting. You know, my concern with, going that full step about, a resolution versus doing something. That also, while you were considering that, none of us knew whether the stay-home order would be extended or anything like that. And I think you guys were smart to put a little pause on it to see what was going to happen. I mean, as you saw as of last week, that most things are open now. The understanding is that later this week, we're going to be seeing the additional steps that bars and restaurants and hair salons and things like that will need to take to hopefully open up by June 1st. So, I mean, there is a timeline with some information coming in there. You know, but everything is not open. If the city council wants to, you know, share its opinion and support of the businesses and the people that are out there hurting still, and because of that, you know, this would be one way of doing that. And then, you know, as Mike had brought up, also, you know, sending that in a letter to the governor and the lieutenant governor, as well as your elected officials, just letting them know, you know, we have a voice in this corner of the state as well.
Thank you. Any questions for Tim or Maggie on the declaration, the proclamation? If not, I'll look for a motion to approve proclamation number 2020-01.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah. So what is the basis of the proclamation? Just, I mean, have we done homework? Do we know that we're willing and safe in standing behind this proclamation? Why not just listen to the CDC and the governor, because he seems to have a plan in place, and we just kind of, I feel like we're just kind of following what other towns did months ago. You know,
How do you mean following what other towns did months ago?
well, didn't Watertown do it a couple months ago? And
They just did it at their last meeting last week, the similar proclamation.
so we're doing it like 2 weeks before they're gonna reopen. It's just, I don't know.
Tentatively.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
that
is
could
tentative.
change.
I mean, you know, the latest order from Governor Walz makes it pretty clear that he withdrew the stay-at-home order and that he is slowly opening up the economy. But there also were some provisions in there about measures that he's following, that he would be looking at to close things back down if they have to entice. I agree with you that I believe that this proclamation does track along that same course. You're saying, you know, it says that we support the decisions that have been made. We think that we also need to consider, you know, public health balanced with the economic concerns. Everything in here, you know, points out that they want people to, you know, stay at home, to abide by the precautions for people that are in the vulnerable population. That also they want a measurable plan that puts them on a path to be able to continue to do business. So, I mean, you know, what is the purpose of this? It is, you know, the ability for this city, as represented by the elected officials, to, you know, put their voice out in the conversation. It sends a message to, you know, your residents and the citizens and the businesses in there that you're hearing their concerns, that, you know, you are urging the governor to, you know, follow the requirements of the CDC, but it also, you know, you're participating in that conversation as well, not just sitting back and waiting for the governor to do something.
So for me personally, you know, when I read through this, it's not saying we just flip the switch and we're just full bore. They're open, do what they want. Obviously, they need any bars or restaurants would need or fitness center or place of faith would need a plan in place. They would still need social distance. I think we're at a point now where the entire state and country understands social distancing, understands what it can be. I just think from an economic standpoint, we need to start pushing a little bit to start getting some of these businesses open. We're going to lose them here in town if we don't.
Yeah, and I agree with Tim. I think the message from the last meeting that I got was just kind of, as a council, saying that you've heard from the businesses and now this is kind of your way of reaching out to the governor with your message and kind of saying, okay, hey, we're listening to our residents. This is this is our way of showing support that for that, while kind of providing, you know, that we kind of a statement that you understand what the governor's message has been all along as well, but just again supporting voicing that it is important, for the city of Mare to kind of try and find a path to support these businesses as you've heard that they have been struggling and
I think there was a lot of misinformation that was going around the resolutions that were being passed. That was the rumor that we discussed at the last meeting was that people had heard that the city council is telling all the bars and restaurants that they have to open up, or things like that. I mean, that makes me uncomfortable. The idea of just intentionally flouting the executive orders from an official public policy standpoint. And the biggest danger to that is even if the city council is seen as encouraging its businesses to disregard the orders that are in place, that could put those businesses at a serious risk. If a bar or restaurant opened up right now and said, I don't care what you say, they could lose their liquor license, they could lose their food and beverage license, and those are not licenses issued by the city. Those are licenses issued by the state. So, I mean, that to me, even if the city was not, enforcing the executive orders, there's still a real risk for businesses that do not follow what they're supposed to do.
And the Attorney General is starting to step in on some of those now.
Absolutely. There's a bar owner up in Stearns County, I believe, who is got a number of restaurants, and they're kind of playing a blinking match right now.
Yep. Okay.
Then there's a typo in the second to the last paragraph. There just needs to be a word added, the word that after path. Put them on a path will allow them to adequately prepare. Do you see it?
I see that change, and that can be made, Tice.
And then Maggie, you got the whereas.
I did get the whereas, and then I
All the whereas.
noticed on the top that activity needs an I in it as well.
Any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second to approve proclamation 2020-01. And as a side note, I'm not going to read the entire proclamation, but I'm assuming we can get this posted up on the city website for people to view if need be. With
And
that,
then make sure they know it's not us saying.
right. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 4-0. 5B, Maggie, City Mayor Preparedness Plan.
Okay, so I just kind of going with the COVID theme, as things are starting to open up again, I think it's time for the city to kind of look at a preparedness plan. Janelle kind of forwarded me one that a lot of cities are using as a template and kind of making their own. So what the preparedness plan would do is it would just, it highlights things that we're going to put into place or continue to have in place when we're conducting business. So when we do reopen City Hall, and that's a discussion we need to have, is when we do reopen City Hall, how are not only employees going to protect themselves, but how are we going to protect the residents? So I do have some things in here such as social distancing. So we could, workers would still maintain 6 feet, and we would still do that social distancing. And then even with visitors, we can put X's on the ground, similar to what other businesses have been doing. Hand washing, we have out there hand sanitizer that we do ask with a sign for people to use before they conduct city business. And then, it just kind of highlights even housekeeping, cleaning, highly used areas. We do have somebody come in once a week, but if we do open City Hall, maybe considering cleaning a little bit more, or just again to keep things a little more clean than, because we're going to have more traffic coming in and out. Also, communication and training, just making sure that staff is educated on what the city is doing to protect them, and what we're highly encouraging. If we do get back into meeting residents outside of City Hall, especially Public Works, if they need to go seal a meter or something, you know, would we wear masks, or would we, even if residents are coming in, would we encourage mask wearing? So I did put together this template for you to review and comment on. So I am looking for any feedback, what we can add, what we can delete. This is kind of my suggestion. I've kind of put this together as kind of what I thought would work as a beginning discussion or a beginning template for us. And then, yeah, so I guess I would be looking to probably get that to you guys at the next council meeting to vote on, and then discuss when we would be planning on reopening City Hall. I mean, you can discuss it tonight as well, but just looking for feedback.
I think it's a good start. I mean, I think it's good. It's a plan. It's in line with what the governor's asking places to do before they reopen. Will this include, what's the scope of this? Is this just staff, Public Works? Is this going to include council? Does this include anyone
I think it would be,
commissions and fire department?
right. Nope, that's a good point. It would include fire department for sure, but I would open it up to council and commissions.
I think it's a good plan. I think it's a good starting point. There is one typo on page 6, the very bottom of page 6, the last sentence.
There's two there.
And that's a long incubation period.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And temperature smell, not small.
Sometimes I just type too fast, I guess.
Another comment.
Another question that I had for you, Maggie, is whether the city it says that on the top of page 8, it says that masks will be made available to employees.
Mm-hmm.
That is, you guys have a small number of employees, so that, you know, would be something that it wouldn't be too difficult to do. The problem is it's one thing to make, you know, to take on the responsibility of making masks available. It's another thing that employees will be allowed to wear one if they choose.
Oh, that makes sense.
However you want to handle it, but, you know, what type of mask are you making available?
Okay.
You're going to have a reliable supply for them. I know Public Works probably has some for some of the stuff they do.
Yeah, they do.
And that's, you know, an OSHA issue in and of itself.
Right. Yeah, we have purchased some masks. I mean, that we're going to be making available now that we're having meetings again in public. So if there are residents or, I mean, even if the council feels that they need to wear them, we were able to purchase some. But that's part of our plan too, is at least having them available for people to use if they forget to bring one, so. But nope, good point. I will look into that a little bit more.
And my other,
I mean, every workplace is passing something like this. You know, we're an office full of lawyers, and now there's signs up teaching us how to wash our hands. You know, and then the building has put those in all the bathrooms and everything like that. So it's a lot of CYA. But beyond that, it's just good things to post to remind people of the things they should be mindful of.
Yep.
the only other suggestion I have for a change is on page 7, hand washing. First paragraph, the very last sentence. Prior to any meal times and after using, I would change that to after using the restroom.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Sounds good.
And now are you looking for a motion to approve this as is, or did you say?
No, this is more feedback tonight. I just wanted to get it out in front of you and get any comments. So it'll probably come back to you guys at the next meeting for more discussion and.
Next meeting, will you have a plan? Are you gonna put together a plan for reopening City Hall and a plan from the fire department on their training and how, when we think we're gonna start opening things.
Yeah, I will do that. I already have, the fire department will be putting together a report for that meeting on kind of what their plans are and their timeline. And I will do one for City Hall as well.
Talk about 6 feet distancing in here. Is that feasible with the counter? Is it 6 feet? I mean, we have glass there, so do we need 6 feet? Or how are you gonna handle that?
When for 6 feet, I think we'll measure it outside of the glass, but I think it's about 6 feet, I would say, from our side, the counter, and then on the other side.
People waiting in line.
Yeah.
If there's more than one person in waiting to talk, would be 6 feet.
Because it does say city workers will maintain 6 feet from visitors and customers. But with glass there, I don't
When not
see.
behind the glass, maybe you can do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, if you can.
And then there are materials that you can buy to put down on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
That'll come up, heal up when you don't need them or whatever.
Okay.
We can check with
Okay.
Do we want to be specific, like Public Works, if they go into a home, they want, wear a mask? Do we get that specific, like that's just
Yeah, I think we
requirement,
can, yeah.
maybe, or, I mean, I don't know.
I think if they go into a home, there should be some questions that we ask.
Yeah.
Have they traveled? Do they have any symptoms? I mean, 2 or 3 simple questions should be asked before they go in.
Okay.
So I have a sheet that I print out for them when Public Works goes in to like change out meters. On that sheet, I can just add the questions.
Perfect.
So, because they take that sheet on a clipboard when they go in there and then they write all the information down.
So some of those questions should be asked before they go.
When they set up the time with the homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And that can be
To
done,
protect our employees and protect the residents.
absolutely. Haven't done any for so long, I'm just trying to think through the process, so.
But you would want to make sure that you ask the question and even maybe repeat it when they get to the door, ask the question, the Public Works person asks the questions at the door, because if you set the appointment up 3 days prior, the answer to those questions could have changed in those 3 days to still make sure that each party
Or,
is.
or maybe Public Works should call ahead of time. Before.
But the other thing you gotta remember with that is when you're collecting medical information from anybody, it needs to absolutely be maintained as confidential.
Good to know.
So those questions from Carver County, when they put on the emails that they were sending out, they had those list of questions. Are any of those considered medical questions?
I mean, it's a pretty, if you ask somebody like, if you're asking them if they've traveled recently, okay, that's not medical. But if you say, for example, if you took people's temps, which you're not, but if you were taking people's temps, somebody's temperature is a medical test. If you ask them their symptoms, have you experienced shortness of breath, fever, chills, muscle pain, sore throat, any new loss of taste or smell, things like that? I mean, that's a medical examination. Now, the law is pretty clear that while we're in a pandemic, those are things that it is okay to ask of employees and things like that, because there is a public health and workplace health element to it. But just like any other employee's medical information or other medical information you have, you just want to make sure that it isn't distributed around.
Okay.
No gossiping about the person with COVID that got their water heater changed or their water meter changed.
So do you think it's still safe for us to ask those questions to make it
I
sure
would
that?
like to review this with Maggie a little bit. I'll look at the draft, but I think that this is a really good conversation to have, like the way to gather that information. Now, if you just had a policy, I mean, having that information, I mean, what does it really change if you can just have them put on a mask when they go into people's home anyway,
Right.
If you couldn't, it's not like you're going to choose to not provide public services to somebody because they need their work done. They need their work done.
Right.
You're not going to go borrow the fire department's equipment to go in there,
anything else on that? Any other suggestions?
No.
This will come to the next meeting and then a plan to start kind of how we're gonna reopen things and when we're gonna do,
Yes.
okay. And you said the fire department will be bringing a plan also
Yes.
for training and things like that, okay. And their business meetings. All right, anything else on that then? Does that give you enough direction?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other items then? Then I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Motion, we have a second.
Second?
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All the same sign. We are adjourned.